Good morning, everybody, on this beautiful
Wait,
day, the 15th of October.
wait.
Okay.
Yeah, we're live.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Krista Cloker. I am the Senior Manager for Companies and Closed Corporations at the CIPC. And welcome to today's webinar on annual returns. So this is going to be an introduction to annual returns. This is what annual returns is, when to file, what to look out for, the consequences of compliance. We're going to touch a smidget on the requirement that you also have to file beneficial ownership with your annual returns, and then how you can follow the CIPC and how to stay in the know. So that's the scope of today's session, and we would like to give you a warm welcome to joining us today. Just a reminder, time is nobody's friend, is that as is stated, this is an introduction to annual returns. So the scope of this, as the CIPC, we serve a multitude of different customers. So if you're the business owner, yourself that wants to understand this compliance obligation, what it is and how to comply, then this is for you. If you are an intermediary, for example, that are well versed on annual returns, this webinar may not necessarily meet your communication needs. So you're more than welcome to join, and we will take no offense if you decide that this is not for you because you already know the information. So let's start. All right, so annual returns. What is annual returns? So imagine annual returns is like a renewal. It's like a car license renewal that you have to renew every single year to to keep your car, your business on the road. Right. So please note this is not the legal description. This is just a short version to give clarity as to what it is. Okay. Annual returns is an annual filing of information. Very key. It's an annual filing once a year of information. So CIPC uses annual returns, and annual returns is built into the legislation as a information collection service regarding the health and the status of businesses in the economy. Right? So during this annual filing, you'll be required to confirm a lot of latest information of the company and closed corporation. So, for example, we will check your corporate information. You need to check that your directors are still up to date, your auditor, your address, financial year, and your company name is still up to date. It's relevant. During annual returns with the AFS FAS filing component, you will also be required to check your financial record keeping, and the financial information needs to be submitted to the CIPC. We also check there's a compliance checklist, so you need to check the level of compliance of your legislation, of your company with legislation. There's a whole list of requirements and obligations in terms of the Companies Act. Annual returns, filing of financial information, and BO is only three of those components. During that annual check, we check or needs to be checked who is the beneficial owner, who is the tail that wags the dog, who actually controls the business. And then we are in the process of starting to launch more information on annual returns. It's a system of collecting information regarding operational information. How many employees did you have during your financial year? Were you active or dormant? What's your main business activity? And were you conducting business? So all of this information may seem unnecessary, but it's very important to understand that CIPC is the custodian of all corporate or registered business information in the country. And as the CIP, because we contain this information, we need to check that this information is still right and healthy. And it's an open registry that we have, which means is that as you as the business owner, if you want to conduct business with another person, with Mr. X, you can come and check on the registry whether Mr. X is telling you, number one, who he says he is, his business health, who's the true owner of Mr. X's business, where's your money going to go, because whoever controls the business controls the flow of the money. So there's a lot of information that needs to come in order to create this business environment in the company. So although you file a lot of information, that information is used to check and balance the information regarding corporate structures, the accountability, compliance, transparency with who you're doing business in South Africa. So that is the reason why you're all doing this. But as we go through a little bit later on, there is slides that actually explains how we use the data and the benefit of submitting your annual returns, not just for yourself, but also for your business partners and the economy as a whole. Right, as I stated, annual returns is an annual filing. It's once a year. My recommendation is please diarize your baby's birthday. Think of annual return as your baby's birthday. You diarize it and you celebrate it by filing your annual returns to keep your business on the road. So when must it be filed? So companies is 30 days from the date after its anniversary date. So for example, if your company was registered 25 September 2023, that's your registration date. Your first annual return will become due on the day after the anniversary date, which is the 26th of September 2024. And on the 26th of September, every single year thereafter until it's finally deregistered. So that's how you can determine and diarize it. Closed corporations are slightly different. They've got a longer filing period. Again, let's take the example, but we turn back the clock. So registered 25 September 2000. It means that they can file from the 1st of September up until the end of October every single year thereafter. You have to file whether you're dormant or not conducting business, right? So annual return filing is regardless of your business status. Again, if you go back to the purpose of annual returns, it's the collection of information to make sure that we know what's going on in the corporate and business environment in South Africa. So therefore, you have to file even while you are dormant and have the intention to use it in going forward. Will the CIPC remind you? Oh, definitely. We will send you an SMS as the director and the active member via SMS and email. But here's the little kicker. A lot of small businesses don't get their reminders because of the simple fact that the wrong contact details were provided to the CIPC upon registration and when the directors and members were changed. Please, the director's contact detail must be that of the director, him or herself, not your service provider, not your mother, not your sister, not your cousin. It has to be yours. And you have to make sure that it's validly done. SMS and email is the primary method used by the CIPC to communicate with businesses. We all know that posting is sort of like slowly being phased out of the economy. So if you don't give us that correct contact details, we will not be able to get in touch with you. You will not be knowing what's going on. You will not know when to file your annual return. You will not know that you've placed an annual return deregistration, for example, except when the bank starts closing your bank account. So please, this is extremely important. If you have not provided, or let's say you have not received a reminder to file in the month that of the anniversary month, then it means that we don't have your correct contact details. Then you have to please do a call 39 if you're a director of a company, or a CK2 if you're a member of a closed corporation. And please make sure that we have got your contact details. Right, so we know now that annual returns is a collection of information that is needed for the economy. It's filed annually. And what must be filed with annual returns? So if we go back to the first slide, there's a list of information that needs to be checked. So annual returns is just the primary corporate information, name, directors, etc. But then remember all the other stuff that we check out. So one of the other things that we are checked for is the AFS or FAS. AFS stands for annual financial statements. So if you have got a bigger company, then you will prepare audited financial statements. And if you're legally obliged to file, then you'll file your AFS. So if you are in that category of your business is so big that you need to do financial statements, audited financial statements, you're definitely going to use the services of an auditor in order to assist you, or an independent reviewer, and then they will advise you on that component. If you don't have that, then you must file what is called an FAS, Financial Accountability Supplement. It's basically to tell the CIPC, did you keep accounting records? Yes or no? Did you keep it in an electronic way? Did you keep it manually? and who helped you, or did you keep your own financial information? This is also like a health check. If we need to ask the information about financial position, we can contact, we know who helped in that regard. Please note that for a company to be healthy, you need to keep accounting records, right? It's like having your own personal budget. You need to have financial statements for your business, whether you are small or big, micro, it doesn't really matter. It gives transparency into your financial position of the business, and it gives you clarity. Oops, my apologies for that. On your financial health of it. Also note that on the one of the regulatory functions that the CIPC has, we need to check compliance of businesses with financial accounting standards. It's part of the control to set up a conducive, mature business environment. So we are required as the CIPC to actually check that companies and CCs are complying with the financial accounting standards. So that's why that's there. Then the compliance checklist, it runs through the most common obligations that a business have. When you decided to take out a loan, or your business has decided to take out a loan, did you do there's a little check that you have to do. Have you done that? So this little compliance checklist is a good way after you filed your annual register, where it asks you a question, have you complied with different sections of the Act, to get an idea of where you are regarding it. Then the big one, and we admit that this is a big component, is beneficial ownership. We need to know who has got ownership of the business, right? Who makes the ultimate decision? You can have a director, but you can have a silent director that doesn't appear on the paperwork, or a far family member in the structure of your business that actually dictates how the business is operated. That's your beneficial owner, and we need to know that. It's part of our international obligations. South Africa is one of the few countries that did not have this in place, and we were required in terms of our FATF and G20 requirements to actually bring in beneficial ownership. So a lot of regulators in the economy has built in beneficial ownerships. The banks are going to do a beneficial ownership check when you start borrowing money from them or asking for a loan. SARS is doing beneficial ownership. If you've got a trust, the Master of the High Court also does beneficial ownership checks and keeps registries of it. I know it's very uncomfortable, but as you start filing your annual returns, you will get used to it. And every year that you come in to file annual returns, it is going to get easier. This is a very new concept, and it's a lot of paperwork because we need to show at this point in time the quality of the registry. As a country, we are measured at the quality of the beneficial ownership register. So therefore, there's information that needs to be uploaded. Right, in future, we'll also make available the option when you file your annual returns and you note that your director information is outdated, to also file your director amendments with your annual returns. But we haven't quite built that in yet. So that's the matters that you have to file with your annual returns on an annual basis. We try to make it as easy as possible to actually integrate and flow through these items. But the first time is going to be a little bit of, take it slow, follow the steps, get it done. And if you need assistance, just ask through the inquiry systems. All right, then one of the big things is there a fee on annual returns? Yes, there is. To carry all of this function, carry all of this data in secure databases, to secure the information, to have education and awareness, to actually we get a lot of requests for data on SMMEs, for example. That unfortunately takes people, systems, and technologies. So there is a fee payable for annual returns. It's an annual fee, and the Companies Act was designed in such a way that your annual returns is to overcome the filing fees for everything else. In other words, when you want to do a directorship change, when you want to do an exchange or a Y change, you do not have to pay for it, because your annual return sort of covers most of your fees. So that's why there's a fee, and why other forms do not necessarily carry a fee. Also note that the CIPC, we are not funded from National Treasury. We are a self-sustainable organization because not everybody owns a company, and therefore it's not required that every single citizen must contribute or pay like an indirect tax for companies. So that's why if you've got a company, you've got specific fees that you have to pay for the CIPC. It's almost like a little special tax for the right that's associated with your corporate vehicle, right? Another key thing is filing of the information must come with payment to have be complete filing. We still get a lot of clients and customers that just deposits a fee into a customer code and think that is filing of annual return. It is not. Go back to the first slide. It is the collection of information that we need to drive the business maturity and integrity of the South African economy. So it's information, information, information. So information plus payment, that equals a complete filing. Then the next question that we get on a regular basis, why is there a penalty fee? Right, because this is an annual fee and we like to encourage people to file in time. And most organizations or most laws have it. If you don't file within a specific time, you are being penalized with a filing fee or a penalty fee. This is to encourage you to file in time. So if you don't want to accrue a lot of penalty fees or have the shocker that, oh, I need to pay, I'm going to make up a fee, my apologies, like 400 Rand at one stop, then please file your annual returns in the month, anniversary month, when it needs to be filed. It's going to be your most cost-effective way to actually get it done because you don't pay penalty fees and you don't pay for multiple years at the same time. Right. So penalty fees are also a general tool to ensure timely compliance, and that's why bigger companies with bigger turnovers have got a bigger penalty fee. Again, we have done this. Will CIPC remind you? Yes, but we need your contact details. Please, we need you as the business owner's contact details, not your service provider. You may think it's easier to make your service provider, but if you and your service provider have a fallout, or the person that the account was signed with your service provider leaves the employ of that service provider, your information and your duties may fall on the sideline and you will not get notified, right? Another thing as well is you as the director and the member of the close corporation or director of a company, you as the director are responsible. You cannot negate or transfer the responsibility and the duty to file or to comply with the Companies Act to somebody else. You will always be accountable and responsible as the business owner. Right, so that's just the intro of annual returns. Again, I'm going to repeat, it's a collection of key information to drive our economy. It's an annual filing. It's once a year. There's other information that has to come through it. There is a fee payable. And if you want to maximize it, you file in time, then you don't have to pay penalties. And CIPC will remind you, provided we've got the correct contact details. So let's do a little bit more of a dive in why compliance is so important. So we're going to now touch base as the role of CIPC and what we do with this information, what is expected of the CIPC because of the receipt of this information. So as all of you may know, CIPC is the custodian of all registered corporate entities in South Africa. It's companies, closed corporations, or co-ops, right? So we are the source registry for all corporate information in the country. We are the first one there. Public and government uses CIPC information to make decisions. So based on the amount of information that we have, a government department, let's say, I'm going to make somebody up. Department of Small Business are coming and said, listen, CIPC, we want to know how big is the SME sector regarding non-profits in the country, because we have got a targeted program to help them get off the ground or to support them to grow. Now, if we don't have annual returns and we don't have the regular update of the registry, then what information are we going to give to the Department of Small Business? Oh, there's 2.4 million companies. Go take your pick. Without the information that comes in with an annual return, we cannot pinpoint and divide and segment the data and give them size indication or specific data for government and other public institutions to make informed decisions so that we can funnel and focus public money and funding to become outcome. We all know if you throw money into the air, it's going to flutter all over. But if you put it in a box, it is contained. It can make a meaningful difference. And that's the same thing with our information and why it's so important to be correct. If we are outdated, the information that the CIPC had is outdated, government and private institutions cannot make informed decisions and focus the funding that they have to make meaningful change into our economy and this the lives of our citizens. We're also mandated to keep an up-to-date and effective register of companies and closed corporations. That also means that we have got the duty that companies and closed corporation co-ops that are not doing business should be removed from the registry, right? What that means is we affect a status change to say you're finally deregistered. Okay. Again, because if CIPC or versions of the CIPC and company registration has been conducted in South Africa since the late 1800s. Right? So now you can have like 7 million entities been registered over the past, let's say 150 years, right? So where do you start? So we have to clean the registry, make sure that we have companies that are in business and active. So that's why if you do not file your annual returns, we make the assumption that the business is not active within the economy. In order to keep a clean and effective register so effective decision making can be made, we will start the deregistration process and then eventually final deregister, right? So that's our registration function. Also, if we have got, I'm just throwing out a number here. If we've got 2 million companies and closed corporations that are not doing business and reflects active, of course, it skews the information. But number two, it poses a risk to these inactive business and the people that are linked up as directors and members for abuse, money laundering, fraud, and terror financing. And then your name will be dragged through it. Because if the police comes, they're going to ask who's the assigned director and your name will pop up. So by having a clean registry of only those that are active and filing, it decreases the likelihood of these inactive businesses being used for fraudulent purposes. Then, on the other hand, as I was pointing out, that one of the responsibilities of the CIPC is to create a reputable corporate environment by increasing compliance with the Companies Act, promoting a reputable and predictable business environment in South Africa, and thus promoting investments. If we have got a cowboy state, right? If there's no control, there is no compliance, people are doing what they want, there's no transparency as who's who in order to hold them accountable. Foreign investors will like, no. It's going to cost us too much money to do business in South Africa. We'll put our money somewhere else. So that's why the other one, by having a reputable corporate environment, it means that we take accountability and responsibility. Our legal system functions well, there's transparency of who does what, and that the rule of law can be enforced if something goes wrong. So that's the regulatory function. All of this is dependent on you as the small business owner keeping the CIPC up to date. That's the value that you have in the economy. Right. Our information can also be then linked up with various other private and government organizations. For example, Windeed. Windeed combines CIPC corporate information with immovable property. So you can actually see, if you do a Windeed search under the following company name or registration number, the following immovable property is assigned to that person. The banks can use the information to build a risk profile of companies as part of their lending procedures. SARS combines our information So to know how many prospective corporate taxpayers there will be in order to plan for tax collection. And remember, tax collection is very important because that taxes goes to the national coffers, to Treasury for disbursement through the different government departments to deliver the services that we have: education, policing, health, uh, development of small business. We've got a Department of Small Business Development whose core focus is small business, putting funding available for these organizations to get them off the ground and to grow them. CIPC information is also used for criminal and civil investigations. So let's say, for example, you do business and this, for the sake of it, lady runs away with your money, right? She committed fraud. And she did it through a corporate structure, a company or a CC. That information, if CIPC didn't exist, how will you start tracing her? Where do you will start the information for the police to start with an investigation? Right, so a lot of our information is used for civil and criminal investigations. To be honest, with the state capture, we get daily requests for information regarding companies and closed corporations for the investigations that is undertaken due to the state capture reporting. Right, and then also CIPC can take companies to court for non-compliance with the Act and director misconduct. Okay, so that's broadly the value of the information that you give to the CIPC. So we would like to encourage you to do that. Right, so there's a national importance of keeping the information, your business information, up to date with the CIPC. Now, how legislation is built, there is consequences for non-compliance. With such, you get hefty penalty fees for not filing in a year. On the side of annual returns, you get deregistered. Remember, if you file annual returns, we assume that you're still active in the business, your information is up to date, you're honky-dory. If you don't file, we assume that your business is not conducting business and we start taking you off. So that's why we systematically place companies and closed corporations that are non-compliant with annual returns into deregistration. You must have 2 successive annual returns outstanding. So let's take that example again of your company that's registered 25 September 2023. First annual return becomes due 26, the day after your anniversary, 26 September 2024. That's your first period. You've got 30 days without a penalty. 2025, 26 September 2025, your second annual return becomes due. That's number 2. At the end of that filing period, you are non-compliant and CIPC will put you into deregistration for non-compliance. Right? So we assign the status called AR deregistration, so we know what triggered the deregistration. You are still legally existing, your business is still legally existing, you can still file your entrance to take you out of it. But that deregistration is a risk indicator to the people that you do business with, the banks, SARS, your creditors, your service providers, that there is something wrong in your enterprise information and that you may be ending, the business may be coming to an end soon. It will not exist. That's why I think some of you may have experienced that the bank start issuing warnings to you to say, listen, you're on ARD registration. Please contact the CIPC to get it up and running. The central supply database that's coordinated by National Treasury, they'll say, no, we can't put you back. We cannot renew you onto the central supply database because you've got outstanding. Go and attend to it first. So because it's a risk indicator, nobody wants to put money and effort into a company or CC that will not exist in a couple of months' time because it's that you're going to struggle to recover that money. Right, so you can continue with the non-compliance until your final deregistration. Once a final deregistration is assigned, your business is dead. It is dead. It does not exist. And it will expose you as the director to liabilities. So deregistration has got very specific set of consequences in itself. So the non-compliance with annual return filings and are now also with beneficial ownership because it's linked is that you will be placed into deregistration and then eventually finally deregistered for non-compliance. Once you are finally deregistered, there's a new set of consequences that set in. the business stops to exist in law. So you that are protected as the director, what we call limited liability, your creditors can't sue you as the individual. It needs to sue the business. It exposes you as the director. Your creditors can come directly for you as the director to pay what was owed by this company, right? So that's one of the consequences. You can be personally held liable for all the debts of the business. The banks may freeze your bank account. They don't may, they do. SARS also sends you back your bags packing to the CIPC. Your service provider may say, no, I'm not loaning you any or giving you goods on what's it called to pay later because you're at risk. You do not exist. So your service providers may stop doing business with you, and creditors may refuse to pay you because you cannot pay a person that does not exist. The company does not exist in order to receive payment. Your creditor cannot pay you as the director because the money is not due to you. It was due to the company that no longer does not exist. So there are serious consequences for deregistration. But some of the news is that you can still reinstate, provided the big caveat, if you can prove that you were in business. Remember, one of CIPC's core goals is to keep an efficient and effective up-to-date registry of active businesses in the economy. If you were dormant and you were finally deregistered, you will not be able to reinstate, right? Because we need to protect making sure that the correct businesses come back onto the registry, and you will have to provide evidence to that fact. And trust me, a lot of people were caught down with a 1.7 million that was deregistered in January. We're still doing reinstatements on those. Oops, my service provider didn't contact me to tell me that I was due to file. I didn't get a reminder to do this. Please, you are going to sit with a lot of trouble on the reinstatement side. Reinstatements is a very tedious process because we need to ensure the integrity of the registry. You have to support that you are doing business. It's a limited resource area in the CIPC, meaning that we've got only a few number of team members that can actually do this. And trust me, the quality of the applications are horrific. Then you have the added drawback is that you have to pay a reinstatement fee and then still file all the annual returns with all of their fees. So reinstatement is a tedious, long, and a very expensive process that you have to follow. So please avoid deregistration at all costs if you were doing business. Right? Consequence of non-compliance with beneficial ownership, CIPC will commence an investigation. So in addition to being finally deregistered or placed into ARD registration, the CIPC can also commence an investigation against the company if it's not filed its beneficial ownership information. And it's a criminal offense to submit false and incorrect information to the CIPC. When you plan to file or we schedule every year to file your annual returns, give yourself a couple of weeks in advance to make sure, especially if you only come and file once a year or interact with the CIPC once a year. Go visit the website, make sure that what you need to do, get your information ready, and then file in time. Right, so those are the consequences. There are serious consequences, but I hopefully that this has shed light to you as to why filing of annual returns is so important, not just for your business, but for the economy. What the information that you submit to the CIPC is actually being used for. What's the consequences of non-compliance and why those consequences are there. All right, so let's quickly go into the how to file annual returns. I'm not going to go into very much detail of this. So with the introduction of the beneficial ownership, I've just added a slide in there. So if you go onto the business portal or the e-services, you will note once you've typed in, especially those of you that have already filed annual returns, you get your calculation page, right? What you have paid, how many is outstanding. At the bottom, you'll get this red message. It's not an error message. A lot of clients come and ask, I can't file annual returns. I get this red message. if you read the message, it says that you have to file your beneficial ownership information and that you have to click on the little next to be rerouted in order to do so. This is not an error message. It's a rerouting to file the latest beneficial ownership. You can file your BO, we call it BO, beforehand, before you start your annual returns. If it was up to date, you will just carry through into the next step. Right, so please, that red message, it's red because it's supposed to create focus when everything is green and blue or teal. Uh, it's not an error, it is an instruction. Okay. Right, so how can you file annual returns? We receive over 1 million annual return filings per year. So we cannot do this manually. You cannot send us a piece of paper with your signature on it and a check attached. It does not work that way. Annual returns may only be filed via an electronic information portal. Remember, annual returns is about the information and you need to provide us with the information. So we give you the online platforms. You can choose the platform that suits your needs the best. We've got 4 options available. So we've got the Biz Portal, which is the quickest. Right, and this is the Biz Portal. It's the one stop way for small business owners to do their own affairs, and that's the quickest. Intermediaries cannot use the Biz Portal because Biz Portal was set up for a different type of customer segment. Then you get e-services. You can still use e-service, but it's predominantly designed for intermediaries and other catch-all services. The process is similar, but it just looks and feels different, and we've got other types of validations in there. You can self-service center. If you're one of those persons that like to have a face-to-face engagement, you can approach any of our self-service centers countrywide. And the drawback with that is you will unfortunately have to travel to your nearest self-service center. The information is on our website to search for. We just added one in Durban, a partner site. Not all of these centers are actually owned or managed by the CIPC. We leverage off stakeholders and collaboration partners. So they will host the service on their behalf. Again, the self-service center, it's a terminal. Your information will be submitted electronically, but there will be a team member or a staff member that's there to assist you through the process. And then, of course, we've got the mobile app. No manual filing, please. No. All right, so when you file on the annual returns on the Biz Portal, there's a few things that you have to take into consideration. If you go in and your company does not reflect on the dashboard, it means that you're not reflecting as an active director or member for them to display it. So linking up of a customer profile with that of a business is linked up to the ID number on the customer code and on the company and then the status, right? So it means that you will not reflect. You can then go and do a Biz profile to check who the directors are and whether you're reflecting or not, and then take it from there. So if your business does not reflect on Biz Portal, you can go to Biz Portal, you can go to e-services. All right. My previous filings does not reflect. Again, as I pointed out, annual returns about the information about the information. A lot of times people just pay and not file the information and they think that it's been done. It's not been done. So if the actual filing and actual payment, then it will reflect on the system. Then another thing on the Biz Portal is you make use of card payments. We're trying to do away with declining balance where you deposit money. All of you probably have experienced if you've interacted with CIPC4 on a payable service. There's sometimes a delay. You make a mistake on the little slip and then the money can't get allocated, then you have to ask our finance department and you need to give proof. So Biz Portal uses card payments only, but please, you have to make sure that your card is 3D secure, meaning that your card has been activated by your bank to do electronic payments. Right? If not, and if you're unsure, contact your bank and make sure that it's 3D secure. If your card is not 3D secure, you will not be able to complete the payment on Biz Portal. And again, If there's no payment with the information, it's not a correct filing. So please make sure that your cards are 3D secure. All right, so once you file your annual returns, we will issue you, you can download the certificate of filing. If you didn't get it, please check your spam or junk filters. CIPC sends hundreds and thousands of communications per day. Per day. What happens then, a lot of service providers think that our information is spam and then they'll put it in your junk or spam filters. So please just check your spam and junk filters. Check with your service provider, your internet service provider, that CIPC emails is not blocked as spam, because as I said, we issue hundreds and thousands of communications. Check that your email address on your customer profile is correct. If all of that is correct, then reprint your certificate. If all else fails, then please log a ticket on email so that we can give you some assistance. All right, then we also get some few other things. If you filed the wrong turnover, remember, submitting incorrect information to the CIPC is a criminal offense. You cannot lie to the CIPC. When you file the wrong turnover, there is a process. You need to provide us with your financial statements, unfortunately, to confirm what your information was supposed to be. You contact the annual return unit, provide confirmation of your filing so we can check how much was deducted. We check what the fee should be based on the accounting statement, not your word of what you say, the actual evidence. We are a government department, and unfortunately, we've got strict protocols and laws that we have to adhere to. So we need evidence to confirm what the turnover should be in the form of financial statements. Otherwise, we get a qualified audit from the AG. And then we're in breach of the PFMA. All right, so this is predominantly been resolved, the ID validations. All right, I cannot file since my client has not completed his or her AFS. We're getting a lot of service providers that complains, especially if you use this service of an intermediary, that they cannot comply with annual returns because you as their client has not given them the financial information in order to prepare the AFSs and FASs. All right, so please note that that needs to be done, or if there's a struggle with it, you need to log a fault for our financial statements department. They administer the AFS FAS component, and only they can tell you how to pass the AFS FAS check on the annual returns. All right, so there's just a quick video about how to file annual returns. Please note that this video we're busy with an update on it. It unfortunately could not be completed in time for this session. So you can go to this video and just note when you go to the filing part that you'll still get the red message under the annual return filing dashboard, the filing history, that you need to click on to complete your BO. Once the video has been updated with the BO information, we will release it in order to help you to file and comply. All right, so we're quickly going to touch base on beneficial ownership as we start wrapping this up. All right, so objective of beneficial ownership, I think we have touched base on it. It's to have a register of natural persons who own or exercise control over legal entities in South Africa. This is to bring South Africa in line with the international best practices. Beneficial ownership is not a CIPC thing. It's a national South African matter. We are trying to get ourselves out of the grey listing. I think all of you have known that that we are grey listed, meaning that investors looks twice at us because they don't know who controls the flow of money in the country. So if something goes wrong, they don't know to whom their investment will actually flow out to. So that's why we bring it in. Beneficial ownership is an international best practice. It's not a CIPC thing. We need to bring the country into the international standards. This will help law enforcement agencies with their investigations as to know who to hold ultimately accountable for the misuse of corporate entities. State capture is a national thing about how corporate structures can be used or misused for the benefit of others. So that provides transparency, and it's also to to identify legal persons or companies that as vehicles are prone to money laundering and terror financing. Right? Other objectives of beneficial ownership, it's going to bring back a lot of benefits to the economy. It's going to make us investor friendly. Why? The investor will know where his investment is ultimately flowing to, and thus it will also reduce the cost of capital, meaning that they don't have to do so much homework when they're trying to invest in the country because they already know there's transparency. And also, we need to show that we are a law-abiding country and that the laws are being enforced. All right, so if you want to know more about what beneficial is, you can actually go to the YouTube videos. Right, just briefly, I quickly just took out some slides. To find out more about beneficial ownership, please follow us on any of the CIPC social media platforms. There's regular posts about beneficial ownership and how it looks like, what some of the definition and what to watch out for. Also on our main website, if you type in http://www.cipc.co.za /?page_ID equal 4447, you'll get all the step-by-step guides and information that you need to file beneficial ownership as easily and as quickly as possible. So there's all the step-by-step guides, how a mandate should look like, how does the interest register looks like, all of those. Then there's another video that was done on the 30th of August, which is much more practical. It gives you practical documentation and content and help you with the decision making surrounding it. So again, that's on our YouTube channel. So please go and find out more. As I stated, once you've done it once, next year it's going to be easier because you're going to know what to expect when you file your annual returns. Right, so now just some closing remarks based on the experience of January of the deregistration of 1.7 million companies and closed corporations. Very key is we register in South Africa a lot of dormant companies and closed corporations that we only register companies now, but we maintain closed corporations that that a lot of people register companies in the hope of getting an opportunity, or they just register a company for the sake of it. We are not discouraging the registration or the formalization of a business, but you have to think carefully of whether it's the right business format for you to register, because there's costs involved and maintenance, and as you can hear, compliance, and you need to have reason for the company. You can't just have it on a shelf. I remember many moons ago, it's about a decade ago, a gentleman came in and complained about annual returns, and as we interviewed him to help him, he said, but he doesn't know which one to comply with, and he opened up a suitcase full of company registration documents. He was carrying all his registration documents in a suitcase. So that means that he may have excessively registered businesses. So keep it to when you really need it and access support. There's a lot of government institutions and organizations that provide support in the form of financial and non-financial support. I've got a few slides on possible areas where you can access that. So register company only when it's needed or when it's going to have value to you. Schedule and diarize compliance with annual returns. Please, it's your baby. You want to look after it. Celebrate its birthday by complying with annual returns and the other information. So schedule it. Follow CIPC on any of our social media platforms. We also have got staff members that actually answers inquiries on social media. Ensure the correct contact details to get reminders to file and deregistration notifications. I've been doing annual returns, deregistrations, and reinstatements for 17 years in CIPC. I cannot stress this, how important it is to have the correct contact details. We cannot find you or inform you if we don't have your correct contact details or your business's correct contact details. And then if you want to know, make sure that you comply, you understand your compliance obligations, please attend the Learn iBiz free online director course. It's online, it's free of charge. It takes you about 2.5 hours. It's got questions to engage you. and you get rated on it. It's not as it's a certificate of attendance that you'll get, but you're going to understand your duties as a director and a member so much better, and the common pitfalls and things that you have to look out for. Right, so there's all our social media platforms. We're on X, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, on YouTube, Facebook, and I think I've heard said that we may be going on to TikTok soon as well. So please follow us on any of these platforms. There's the information regarding the Learn iBiz online director course. There's the web address to directly go to it. And then if you're an SMME that you need support, non-financial support like business training, how to develop a business case, the thinking surrounding how to identify opportunities. Here are some of the SME supports that I have on my list. This is not an exclusive list of organizations in South Africa that gives support, including financial support. But remember, it's not guaranteed. You'll have to meet the criteria to access that type of support, especially the financial support. Some of these are non-financial support. They give you networking opportunities and those type of things, business case. But please go to their websites, innovate, and also note that none of these are in a specific order. Innovation Bridge, National Small Business Chamber, Small Enterprise Development Agency, Industrial Development Corporation. I know the Department of Agriculture gives out subsidies and incentives for subsidiary farming, for example. If you're in the farming, go look at the closest department that your industry is related to. Industrial Development Corporation, Youth Development Agency, if you're under 35, SMElaunch.co.za, the SME Toolkit. These are predominantly SME Launch, and SME Toolkit is non-financial support. National Empowerment Fund, they even do funding for township development and those type of things. Women-owned business, youth-owned businesses. So check them out on their website, National Empowerment Fund, the Small Enterprise Finance Agency, SEFA. The DTI has got a website doing business in South Africa. Then the DTIC also gives out funding and incentives for different types of projects. We're trying to stimulate the industry, the manufacturing sector, so there's incentives in that regard. But please go through to their website and just Google in financial support, for example. National Lotteries Commission, for example, they give funding for NPC specifically, but you have to meet their criteria. It needs to be a service that's for the community. Then there's also various incubators and for startups in the economy. Please Google the definite list of South African business incubators for startups. They list 58 incubators and what they can offer in the economy. I don't have a list just for the incubators, but you can actually Google business incubator in your area, and there will probably be an incubator in your area for a specific industry. So if you need your business you've got a business idea and you need to carry it forward, please access any of these supports. As I said, a lot of other government departments do have a mandate to support SMMEs. They might also be offering incentives, or you want to have that investment to take the next step. Please check out those websites and what they can offer. Right, and then the last thing is for those that have already submitted, thank you so much. We are currently busy with a survey to see SME registration and support experience survey. It does ask questions about what's your level of understanding regarding compliance with CIPC. Who do you access funding for? If you have not attended to the survey as a business owner, this is not for intermediaries. We want the SME experience. Please do so that we can collect some good information to see how we can support SMMEs going forward, not just with company registration, but also to see how to set up the network in South Africa, in order to support SME growth in the country. We'll be sharing the survey with our collaborator partners, which includes a lot of the departments listed under the SME support. And then that's my last remark. And then I would like to thank you for your time. I hope this was very insightful to understand what annual returns is, what's the importance of annual returns, and also a little bit of hope as to where you can access support to grow your business going forward. For that, then I would like to thank you. And then, Ridzani, back to you for any possible questions.
Shani's back.
Good morning, Miss Kelly.
Okay, so now we're going to do our questions. Let me see what questions that we have. I guess from that informative presentations, our questions cannot be that much. Okay, Walrich wants a recording of it. Will be, yes, Walrich, it's on Facebook, so you can watch it at any time, as well as YouTube and Twitter. So anytime that you choose, you can watch the recording. Sammy says, so far, so good with CIP's new system. That's a positive comment.
Thank you, Sammy. We need it.
Keep it up. Let's hope you don't introduce something new and mess up the system. No, Sammy, I promise you our system will be effective for you.
Or at least just follow us that you know what's coming down the pipeline.
Yes. You know, you have our details. Please contact us if you have any challenges. Okay, let's see the next question that we have. Okay. I saw the email. All companies, external companies, and closed corporations are required in terms of the Companies Act as amended to file beneficial ownerships and security registers, information or declarations since 24 May 2023 annually, or as when it changes. I think that is just a comment.
Yeah, that's a comment. So just to get clarity, so you are basically required once your new business is registered, within 10 days of registering your business, you need to submit your beneficial ownership information as a starting point. And then this act says basically at least once a year, as and when your beneficial ownership information changes, but at a minimum once a year, you need to file your beneficial ownership. So that's the other reason why we linked up beneficial ownership with AFS, FAS, with annual returns, because then you only have to come in once a year to come and sort out all of your affairs. You don't have to come in bits and pieces.
We, Sammy, we're very considerate. We take into account all the red tape. So the compliment is well deserved. Okay, Lion August, let's see his comment is. How long not take to approve the ownership I posted my certified ID? Okay, I think that's a process.
Yes, unfortunately, that's a little bit too vague. You maybe just refer to the guide to email the correct area for the correct service for assistance.
Okay, the next one is CIPC. I registered an NPC on September. I made a wrong name, so now I want to change the name. Oh, Krista, you're getting all types of questions.
All right, change of name is a little bit outside of scope of this, but please go to our main website, www.cipc.co.za, and just follow the maintenance tab. All information regarding the service and how to effect different changes are on our static website. And if that fails, just log an inquiry for the relevant area to support you.
Krista, this is about deregistration. How long does it take to apply for a company to reinstate it after it was deregistered?
Oh, that depends on the quality of the application. Sorry, and yes, the quality of reinstatement applications are extremely poor. A lot of people don't put in customer codes onto the document, so then we cannot trace it, we cannot track it. The images are poor, it does not comply. If everything is correct, as I said, we're getting high volumes. We're processing thousands of reinstatements at the moment. It takes about 15 to 20 working days. If your application meets all the requirements and the money is in the account to deduct it. It is a tedious process, unfortunately, but yeah, it's not an easy one to answer at the moment.
Okay, our next question. Is it possible to activate a company which has not been active for 3 years and pay annual returns for the past
Nope.
years?
Nope. Remember back to the presentation, we only reinstate if it had economic value because we're trying to keep a registry of active businesses. So if you were not dormant at the time of deregistration, you will not be able to reinstate. Your advice to consider when you are ready to register a new company. It's far cheaper as well. Your name may still be available, but contact the name reservation department on the inquiries component for them to advise you on the name, if you want to keep the name or a similar name to it.
Oh, Blessings wants us to post it on YouTube. Yes, Blessings, it is on our YouTube channel as well. What is the name of the mobile app? Is it the SARS one?
And no, we are not SARS. It's actually CIPC Mobile.
Okay.
We are currently through a process of revamping it a little bit. But yeah, so we do have the mobile app option available. So you can go to any store and just Google CIPC Mobile.
Okay. The next question is, if the business was deregistered in 2015, but the business has a property in the name of the business and it was a CC, can this business be reinstated and what documents are required?
Please refer to our website. Yes, you can, because it's got economic value. It's got a property in it. All the requirements for reinstatement is on the CIPC website, www.cipc.co.za. Go to maintain your enterprise, select the type of entity it is, and then you look for reinstatements. All the requirements and documentation is set there. There's also videos on reinstatement, so you can even go to the YouTube channel and actually watch the videos on reinstatements with all the possible examples.
Next question is, can we get information on the BIO filing for trust? Okay, it's not related to this.
Please note, if you want to have BO for trust, you need to contact the Master of the High Court. CIPC do not administer trusts on behalf of the country. It's the Master of the High Court.
Okay. Guys, I cannot submit my BO because I must submit my AR.
There's so many things that can be wrong there. It can be your status because you're non-compliant. You may be in the reinstatement process, or a lot of people are successful in reinstate, but then don't file the annual returns to bring it into business, and then it goes back into final. So please, you need to go to the inquiry notice and email the correct department for assistance with a screenshot of the error. Unfortunately, it's not as clear cut as that. There's many scenarios that can trigger, and it will be based on the scenario. So just screenshot, enterprise name and number to the right email address. Oh, and please, when you contact the CIPC on email, please provide your enterprise name and numbers. You know how many inquiries we need to refer back to you because enterprise name and number is given, and then you go back to the queue for another wait of 5 to 7 days for your inquiry. So please, when you contact the CIPC, full information, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Shani.
Judith says she has a long question. If UBO filing blocks annual returns, then the system needs to improve, in my opinion. For example, I have a couple of private South African companies who have a foreign listed company as a sole shareholder. I cannot file beneficial ownership because the system prevents me from submitting because the shareholder does not have a South African province.
All right,
The
you
BO
have to
email,
yeah,
okay?
you have sorry, you have to that's definitely a BO matter. You need to contact the beneficial ownership inquiry mailbox. It seems like you've already done so. If the 10 days have expired for you emailing the beneficial ownership inquiry mailbox, you can follow the escalation procedure to the relevant senior manager. Shani, can you maybe just post the link to the escalation procedures as well? Or then
Okay.
contact the CIPC ombudsman. So they will have to specifically go into based on the scenario and have to like unravel it to help you to get your BO to file.
Okay, the next question from Cecilia and Pete. Why are there delays in restoring Why are there delays in restorations, registering of companies, director amendments, actually everything? We are experiencing issues with CIPC dispatching documentations as soon as possible.
All right, so you have to, unfortunately, I cannot comment to that. As I said, certain areas are new in the organization. So you need to email the correct department, please, for your inquiry with your difficulties and let them resolve. Unfortunately, I cannot answer to it. It's too blank and too vague. We deal with specific matters.
Okay. Mumpo also is asking a very vague question. How does it take to have my BO submission verified? How long? I think she means how long does it take?
Unfortunately, I cannot say beneficial ownership is administered by another department, but you can contact the beneficial ownership email box if you have not received a response between 3 and 5 days. Please note it's back office, it's staff that needs to extract the information and go through it. There's a lot of filings. Beneficial ownership and annual returns is the high, and also new company registrations are some of the highest incoming volumes area, and BO needs to be investigated because of the quality that we need to prove to the FATF assessors. So please just contact the beneficial ownership unit if you have not received a response between 3 and 5 working days. But unfortunately, I'm not 100% sure about the service standard.
Okay, so for our last question from Lion, August, please inform me about the mandate, what document I should have for ownership. Okay, that's another fake question.
Yeah, so please go to the slide, to that page on the CIPC website. Maybe all of those documents may be support with them, as well as this video, because I quickly scanned this video this morning, a documentation content and examples. It may give him some some clarity as to the content and the structure of that additional information.
Okay. Lion, all this information.
I'm going to keep this open for a while.
Lion, all this information is on the CIPC website. You go on the webinars, you will see our presentations. You can go onto YouTube. You can go on our Facebook, on our Twitter page. All of them have these presentations and our recordings. So please go and listen to the presentation, re-look at the presentation, and you will get your information. Okay, there's just one last question that just came in, Krista. Good day. Are the beneficial ownerships applicable to directors who don't own shares to the company?
Remember, shareholding is only one way of controlling a business. There's other ways of control as well. For example, that they may be appointed by another person that's not a shareholder, etc., in terms of the MOI. So if you need more detail on that, you need to contact the beneficial ownership unit. They're specifically trained on beneficial ownership and deal with it on a day-to-day basis. But in theory, they can be beneficial owners either way. It's not just shares. It's who owns and controls, who controls the decision making. And shares is only one way of exerting control and influencing decision making.
Thank you so much, Krista, for answering all these questions. We have now come to an end of it. Your presentation was very, very informative. I'm sure our audience is going to go back and listen to the presentation. And we had so little questions. So that just shows us that we are reaching our audience out there. Is there any closing remarks that you would like to make, Krista, before I end?
All right, just to please follow on our social media platforms. Choose one that fits you the best. We post information on how things work at the CIP on a daily basis. So please follow us. And then please do the Learn IBIS if you have not done so you can understand your duties and obligations as a director of a company. If you need financial or non-financial support, please contact a department to help you through the process. And then also, I would love if you will participate in the survey, if you have not already done so, that we can actually get a good response to this survey so that we can see how we can close in the network and provide better support to the SMMEs in the economy.
Okay, you see now we have another channel in which you can communicate with us. So this is your opportunity. Please, if you haven't completed the survey, please do so as soon as possible. Thank you so much for joining our webinar. Good day, everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right, colleagues, are we offline?